bring you breaking news as we have been following reports of a train derailment in Mansfield, just outside of Storrs, southwest of the main Yukon Storrs campus. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tim Lammers.
And I'm Symphony Privet. A shelter-in-place order is in effect right now for a half-mile radius surrounding the derailment. We have live crews around the area with the very latest developments this morning, and we are also waiting for a live press conference to begin any minute now, so we'll be sure to bring that to you as it pops up. Now, in the meantime, let's get you up to speed with what we've learned so far. Here are a couple of things you need to know. Right now, we're going to check in with Fox 61's Joe Monty. Joe, where are you at, and what are you seeing right now?
Hey, we are on Stafford Road right now in Mansfield, and we're not seeing a whole lot. The scene behind me is blocked off very far from where we are standing at this point, actually. If you want to take a look behind me, you can see that right now we have a cop car and as well looks like maybe a DOT or a state truck helping with some of the cones over there. But the road is closed between Route 275 and Route 44 as a train with hazardous materials has partially derailed into the river. The derailment happened around 9:20 this morning, and the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection says that 14 train cars have derailed, 5 of which landed in the river. The cars were carrying liquefied natural gas, LNG. It's not flammable in its liquid state, but it does become a vapor and then becomes highly flammable. The town of Mansfield is asking all residents within a half a mile of this area to shelter in place for the time being. Again, the area is closed, and if you're traveling in this area, you're definitely going to need to take an alternate route. We have no word on when this mess will be cleaned up and when the road will be reopened, but we do know that there will be a press conference, as you mentioned earlier, at noon, and we're going to take you live there. But for now in Mansfield, Joe Monty, Fox 61.
All right, Joe, thank you. We'll check back in with you in just a moment. Now, if you're just tuning in and you're learning about this incident, here's what we know so far. First up, as Joe was just saying, if you live in a half-mile radius of that area, you should shelter in place. There were previous reports about a possible evacuation, but that is not happening. They are just asking residents to shelter in place. The town of Mansfield is issuing that advice. So officials say that no one is hurt at the scene, so that's a bit of good news here. And DEEP says 14 train cars went off the track. At least 5 of them landed in the Willimantic River. Now, just minutes ago, we got another update from the town of Mansfield, and we've learned a little bit more about how this scene is unfolding. We do know first responders and hazmat specialists are at the site right now evaluating that situation. They say the train car was carrying propane, lumber, grain, and grease. So that's a lot that those teams out there will have to evaluate this morning and figure out how to safely clean it up. The town of Mansfield says that there were concerns about potential material contamination, but that has not been confirmed at this point. So right now, we do want to make sure we reiterate no evacuation orders in place, but folks who live in a half-mile radius are expected to shelter in place at this time.
Yes. Now, we want to give you a sort of a wider view of what's going on. And once again, let's just re-emphasize 2 points. First of all, nobody is hurt. Second of all, none of this hazardous material has spilled. As Joe Monty was saying, if there is a spill, that's where we could see a problem, because that natural gas, the liquefied gas, can vaporize, and that's when it becomes very flammable. That's not the case yet. So at this point, this is just looking like this is going to be a traffic inconvenience, and it may be for several days. So I want to show you where we were. Joe Monty was down here right at the intersection of Route 32 and South Eagleville Road, and it's closed all the way up to the intersection with Route 44. The spill, at least as we first heard it, was roughly in the 1000 block of Stafford Road, Route 32, so that would be right around here, and this white line is the train line where the train did derail. This is the water right there. That's probably going to be closed for a while. What I want to do is widen out, if we can, a little bit and show you a little bit more about where you want to go. And of course, this is not working. It's my one chance to try to use the traffic maps. I can show you anyways. For reference, the Yukon Storrs campus is right up in here. Now, one of the main ways people get to the Yukon Storrs campus is to go Interstate 84 down Route 195. That is not going to be a problem at all. That's okay. So you can get in and sort of go into the west, the east part of campus. But of course, a lot of people with Hilltop campus is right around here, Hilltop Apartments, I should say. A lot of people are going to have to take Route 275, that's South Eagleville Road down here. And then the question becomes, are they able to take some of the side roads like Separatist Road, Bone Mill Road? A lot of people go in, and especially if they're trying to get to Gamble Pavilion, they go in the back way, and we don't know for sure. Initially, there were those reports of an evacuation. That's not the case. It's just shelter in place. So as far as we can tell, all of those side roads to the west of the closure on Route 32, those are open. And there, we can show you a little bit more. Up here, this is the UConn campus. Here's Gamble Pavilion. So you should be able to come in, take Route 275, and get to where you need to go from there, which is what a lot of people do anyways. Likewise, Route 32, you can go up, take 44, and then cut around. This should not be a gigantic problem to try to get to the UConn campus, which brings us to one other point we need to make. UConn has stressed there were some incorrect reports out there for a while that the Depot campus up north, right up here, was closed. That is not the case. Both the UConn main campus is open. The Depot campus is open. I don't believe any of the shelter-in-place order is necessarily applied there, but the Depot campus is a little close because half mile, a radius, that would bring you to right about here, maybe right around where Cooper Lane is. But again, it's a shelter-in-place order. It's not an evacuation order. So for now, this is once again more of a traffic problem, and it looks like there should be plenty of workarounds to get you to where you need to go in the UConn area, because Route 32, this section here between South Eagleville, Route 275, and Route 44, that might be closed for days. Symphony.
Now, DEP, CTDOT, other state officials, as well as Mansfield emergency officials, they are getting ready to start a press conference. We are waiting for that to begin any minute now. We do know our reporters have been asked to move to the Mansfield Firehouse, expecting for that press conference to begin soon. So we will be sure to keep you updated as soon as that starts. In the meantime, we do want to keep you up to date with these updates coming from the town of Mansfield. They tell us they're still trying to figure out the situation. Officials say that there is a concern for hazardous material contamination, but at this point that has not been confirmed yet. Emergency responders and DEEP are on the scene. And I also want to include this detail that we got from the city just a few minutes ago about one of those train cars. They say it was carrying propane, lumber, grain, and grease. So more than one material out there. And let's also pick back up on travel in that area. Parents of students in that area may be wondering what's happening with their kids right now. How are they going to get to the school? How are their kids going to get home? Yeah. So for students and staff traveling to and from schools, the town of Mansfield said school leaders are working with the bus company right now to try to find some alternative bus routes for this afternoon. So once they get that all figured out, they will be in touch with families.
Now, we're told we just got some pictures in from the scene. So this is going to be one of the first pictures we see, thanks to the Mashantucket Pequot firefighters, IAFF Local 4746. We can see some of those cars that have derailed. They look like they're cylindrical in shape. Those might be the ones that are carrying liquefied natural gas. I don't know for sure. Basically, there's still a lot of questions we have, and sort of funneling them down. The top question, first of all, exactly how many cars have derailed? We've heard, upwards of 14. Then the next question is exactly how many of those cars are into the water? And at least 5 is what we know at this point, but it might wind up being more than that, because then that brings us to the third question. Of the cars that are in the water, are any of them carrying the liquefied natural gas? We cannot stress this enough. At this point, there is no confirmation, nor is there any evidence that any of it has spilled. But if it does spill, that's when it can start to vaporize. And from what we have looked up, believe me, we're not chemists here, while liquefied natural gas by itself is stable, once it spills, those vapors can start coming off of it, which those vapors are flammable. And our understanding is that if it comes in contact with water, that vaporization can rapidly increase. So the danger would then increase. But we're not at that point yet, and hopefully we won't be. And it does look like things are stable. So this is our first look from the scene. Now, would you believe we have other breaking news to talk about here? This is out of Manchester. 39 minutes ago, Manchester High School released all students from high school for the day because a student was found to have a gun inside the school. The superintendent of Manchester Schools, or I forget, it might be the principal, said it was one student who overheard another student in a bathroom talking about a clip and notified an administrator. So the police were called. They said they did find a student with a gun. They did take possession of the gun. Everything is safe and stable at this point. Nobody was hurt, but they did release all students from school for the day at 11:30. Now, they said, of course, because of what happened, some students might be experiencing a wide range of emotions at this point, so they do have some staff on hand to help students process those emotions. And more importantly, they said there is going to be a meeting tonight about what happened at 5 p.m. at the Manchester High School auditorium. So we will cover that for you. But we are hearing, Symphony, that we're getting more now from Mansfield.
Yes.
Press conference is
Let's
getting
take a
ready to
listen
start.
in.
By 911 to the dispatch center that there was a possible freight train derailment here in town. The rail line that we have going through town is the New England Central line. They were running freight, no passengers. They did have a train that came off the tracks just up the road a little ways in front of 1090 Stafford Road, which is Route 32 here in Mansfield. Crews have been on scene to establish what happened. We're still investigating, but at this point in time, it appears that 14 of the cars came off the tracks. The freight cars that were carrying, some were general goods. There were some cars that were carrying liquefied natural gas, and there were also some cars carrying some grease, food grade grease that came off the tracks. It appears that primarily the liquid propane, some of those cars did roll over, but they does not appear to have any breaches with those vehicles, those vessels in it at this point in time. We're also still assessing the integrity of the other cars on the train. So we've had hazmat teams on scene from both Yukon, Mansfield, and the Sarrett Regional team out of Region 4. And so they've gone out there, they've got air monitoring in place. They have not detected any flammable liquids or any flammable leaks from any of the train cars. Out of an abundance of precaution, we have implemented protect in place recommendation for the residents in those areas, but basically between 275 and Route 44, those houses and those in the area, to just kind of remain in place, windows closed at this point in time. And while we do have the road closed and we're continuing to assess the situation, we've got teams continuing right now to get in there, do some air monitoring, and they're trying to get some better pictures right now of exactly of each individual tank car to see, make sure there's not any breaches or any leaks at this point in time. Next over, I'm just going to hand over to Adam Libros, who is the town's fire marshal and emergency management director.
And Adam Libros, Libros, Mansfield, the emergency management director, here to assist with the coordination of resources, locally and state resources. We have both on scene. Fortunately, with the lack of a leak, we didn't have to do any evacuations. We are monitoring the situation. If we do have to do any evacuations, we will send out notices through the emergency notification system. And I'll turn over to Ryan Aylesworth, the town manager.
Ryan Aylesworth, town manager. Last name is Aylesworth. Obviously, this is a very serious event in town, and can't stress enough the importance and value of our mutual aid partners locally, regionally, and statewide. We're monitoring the situation very closely. From the town's standpoint, we've been trying to put out accurate and up-to-date, timely and thorough information to all our residents. Obviously, those in the immediate area that are within the half-mile shelter-in-place radius, and we'll be updating that information as needed. I understand that earlier in the day there was some information that was shared that the time was inaccurate. There is not an evacuation order in place, and so we are trying to make sure that the public knows that there is no evacuation order right now. We greatly appreciate the level of response, timely response from our partners. We are blessed with natural resources in this community that we want to safeguard, and certainly hazardous waste, potential hazardous waste spill is of serious concern. Fortunately, right now it appears that the situation's under control and the public health and safety is being maintained. So we will continue to push out thorough, updated information to our public and make sure that everybody understands what's going on and keep the public safe. Out of abundance of caution, I am going to be issuing a local emergency order, a declaration of emergency later today, and we will be activating our virtual emergency operations center, again, out of an abundance of caution to make sure that information and resources are being deployed to our residents at this time. And I'll turn things over to the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection.
Good afternoon, Rich Scalora, Department of Energy, Environmental Protection, Emergency Response Unit. As everybody prior to me has said, we're here out of an abundance of caution, first and foremost for the environment around the derailment. There is a surface water body there, both the Willimantic River and Eagle Lake. So our concern is if there were to be an incidental release, we want to be ahead of that to make sure that we can keep it out of that water body. As the chief said, we're working with the regional and the local hazmat teams. My staff are out there right now working on some of the rail cars to assure that we don't have any releases. And we're going to continue in this position until all the rail cars are back on their wheels and safely removed from the area.
I guess we'll open up to any questions anybody might have. Sure.
Hi, with NBC, thank you for your time. So just for clarity, we've been hearing from the state 14, 13, now we've heard 10. Are we going with 14? And if so, which agency should we be getting that information
Yeah,
from?
so it looks like the cars, not all of them came, some are like partially on the track, some are off on the side. So from a distance, when we look at from a binocular street view, that's where you're going to get like there are probably 6 or 7 that are clearly over on their sides and off the tracks. There are a couple more that are on the tracks in different stages, and so that's why the 13, 14 number is going to be there. It's really going to be there's the 6 cars that we're really worried about right now, were the liquid natural gas cars that were on their side off the tracks completely.
And how many cars were in the train in total?
I don't have the total number. It
Total
was
number, we'll have to get that for you.
And then how long are you guys expecting this cleanup or recovery effort to take?
be honest, probably gonna be a couple of days, because where it is, it's just behind some farmlands and some fields, and between that and the river, so they're gonna have to probably make almost like a roadway to get in at the site, and then once we get in there and get access to the site, stabilizing, they're gonna need to get cranes and heavy equipment in there, so it's not gonna be a today operation. We're definitely taking it slow and methodical. The rail company is on site. They've got representatives on site. They're starting to think about what they need for resources. But reality is they're going to need to get some cranes in there. So it's going to take some time.
Do we know, sorry, I walked in late,
Sure,
Chief,
sorry.
but do we know, there's no evacuation?
Correct.
There was just shelter in place?
Shelter in place, that's all.
And it's not going to, you don't think it's going to extend to an evacuation?
At this time, we don't have any reason to believe that. Again, this was out of an abundance of caution. God forbid if something starts leaking, then things might change. But at this point in time, we don't see any need for that.
And what can you share about any information you have about the cause? Like, I don't know how this works, but speed, I know trains go fast, ice, conditions, what can you share about that?
That is too soon to tell for that, and that's really, DOT does have their rail division on site, so they're going to be helping with some of that investigation as well as working with the rail company on figuring out what might have happened and what might have caused this.
Do you know where the origin and destination, where the train was going?
I don't know offhand. I know the train was southbound, so I don't know exactly where they were coming, where they were heading for.
How about the operator of the train or anyone on board?
Yeah. So they did have a conductor and an engineer on the train. They had noticed it immediately. They also were part of the ones that called 911. They've been able to stabilize the other vehicles or other cars that were not involved with this. They've been able to lock it, secure it, and they're still on scene helping with manifests and giving us some of that information of what was involved on those cars.
Nobody injured?
Nobody's injured on that.
And you mentioned the windows, keep them closed. Just to explain to people, what's sort of the purpose of that? I know it's out of an abundance of caution. Like, what is sort of the caution there?
So what we're worried about is the liquid natural gas that's on these cars is non-odorized. So normally you think you get a gas leak, you'd smell it. These cars don't have that odorant. That mercaptan hasn't been added yet. So naturally, the natural gas doesn't have any odor. So our fear was if there was a leak, you might not smell it in your house. So just out of an abundance of caution right now, we were just telling people, just close your windows, stay inside for right now. Right now, we haven't found any leaks. All our meters are reading 0, but that was just kind of as an abundance of caution. We're telling everybody that. We're hoping that maybe over the course of the next couple of days, we can, or several hours, we can amend that.
For the expansive roadblocks, how long is that going to last? Is it going to go through commute later today?
That'll definitely be through the commute later today, so 32, what's that?
No.
Sorry. So, yeah, Route 32 is going to be closed from Route 275 here up to Route 44, probably at least through for the rest of today. And then it's going to be a matter of how much of that operation does the rail company, can they do off-road versus do they still need access in and off that road, so.
And for those 6 cars in the water, if you said that correctly, what does that, like, recovery look like? What are you guys doing with the water? Can you just explain a little bit more about what that's like?
Yeah, so there are 6 cars on the side, 4 are actually in the water some way, shape, or form. Not all of them are in the water. Right now, nothing seems to be leaking. We do have hazmat booms and precautions out and in place. So we did that again as an abundance of caution, so that way, if there was anything, we do have the materials. We've staged a bunch of materials in and around the area. So if we find that there is a leak or we need to, we can deploy those resources. Right now, we don't seem to have an immediate need to go and do any of that stuff, but we are working with DEP and the rail company to figure out at what point, how they're going to handle each car. Each car is going to be a little different, and they're discussing right now. They're still doing an evaluation. Do they take the product off, or do they move the car intact? So, and that's really going to be consultation with the train company.
Just for clarification, the 6 liquid propane gas cars, they're not liquid natural gas.
Sorry.
They're LPG, liquid propane, and 4 of those cars are the ones that are in the water. And we have requested through the train company, and they were working on it prior to our requesting it, that they bring an environmental contractor on board, again, as an over precautionary measure to put containment boom and/or sorbent boom in the water, so that if there were a release while we're doing this upright operation, whenever that may happen, that if something were to go wrong, we're ahead of it, and we're going to protect that natural resource.
Rich, how far are we right now as the crow flies from the actual incident?
Chief, are we a half a mile and a 3/4?
3/4 of a mile?
3/4 of a mile? Yeah. And it's,
I mean, we're right at kind of at that half-mile radius.
and it's down in a low valley, you know, there's 2 opposing hills on both sides, so, you know, with the propane gas being heavier than air, that's a good thing for us. It's working in our favor, and we want to keep it that way. There is no releases right now, and we're going to continue that air monitoring so that we can, you know, inform everybody. As the chief said, it's unodorized. You're not going to smell it. There is no detecting factor in that gas yet. So we're going to do continuous monitoring as long as it takes, as many days, whatever the time frame is, and that's going to be dependent on the train company and their recovery operations.
And what kind of conditions did you guys notice, like on the rail, that maybe could have caused the derailment?
We're not even looking at that. That's outside of our scope of work, and we're going to leave that up to the experts that deal with that.
Being a mile and a half away, what can you tell us in terms of what it looks like down there, what your crews are doing personnel, and if there's any slippage? We've seen, you know, cars with sand, and we've seen multiple emergency units with their lights on, like, it's urgent getting down there. Is there any? So
it is a large field, a farmer's field. He was gracious enough to plow that path for us to gain access to the train. The conditions they're brutal. It's cold, there's snow. We're working around metal that's not in the form and shape that it's normally going down the train tracks on. So it's brutal conditions, and we also have that river with the cold temperatures and the crews working close to that river. You know, one slip and you end up in the water, and that's a bad situation. So they're unfavorable conditions that the crews are working through, and we're lucky that we have sufficient staff right now to continue this operation for the unforeseen future.
Is there a no-fly zone today?
Yes.
There is yes, we have our drones
Temporary
operating.
restriction.
Yeah, so that we can get our reconnaissance of the situation, because we cannot walk all the way around this incident.
And I'm sorry to be repetitive here, but let's just clarify. So 14 derailed, 6 had that propane.
Or
4 of that, say it again.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Okay, 6 had the propane, 4 of the 6 in the water.
Correct.
Yeah, there's 14 cars on that train that we're concerned with.
Okay.
I just wanted to also mention that we've been receiving support from members of our state legislative delegation. I know Representative Haddad has pushed out a communication to members of his district, and Representative Boyd has reached out to me, helping to serve as a liaison, put us in the right contact with the right people with the state, and basically serving as a resource in any way that he can.
Driving in, a few of the roads are closed. Do you know how long, more or less, people should expect those to remain closed?
I would say at least through rush hour tonight is safe to say for sure. And then we'll reassess. We're planning on doing another press release or press briefing at 4 o'clock here. So hopefully we can give you a better time frame and a better update of what's going on at that time.
Thank you. And it's still early, but
Yeah.
can you tell how large or significant the environmental impact of this would be?
So far, it doesn't appear we don't see any of like the propane cars aren't leaking, which was our real immediate concern. Those don't appear to be leaking. So obviously the trains get their own fluids and things like that, but we're still assessing. But we haven't found like a significant spill or a leak that we're really concerned about at the moment. Any other questions?
What is the impact on surrounding businesses in the area?
There's one business in the immediate area, which is a local construction firm. So it's impacting them a little bit just because they can't get the trucks in and out of their business. So it's more of an inconvenience for them. We do have 2 daycares further north of the site. They're sheltering in place as a precaution. We've been in communication with the management and the staff at both of those so they understand what's going on. But the kids are safe inside and they're doing their thing. Anything else? Other than that, I guess we'll be back here at 4 o'clock and we'll have this open up. We'll open this probably at 3:30 so we can have everybody set up at 4 o'clock.
All right, let's give you a quick recap of what we learned from this news conference this morning. First up, I want to start with some details from Ryan Allsworth. He's the town manager there in Mansfield. He is saying that he's going to issue a local declaration of emergency at some point later today, and that their virtual emergency center will also be activated later today. And we've also learned a few more details about the incident. We do know from those leaders at the press conference that the train was traveling along the New England Central line, and that appears to run through Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Vermont. They did clarify that we are now looking at natural propane gas instead of liquefied gas. And Tim, you have a little more about how that may impact what they're doing out there.
Yes. Pretty much not much based on what we were talking about before. Initially, we were under the impression it was liquefied natural gas. It's liquefied propane gas. How much more dangerous is that? It does not look like it's much more dangerous. Like liquefied natural gas, it's not flammable in its liquid state, but if it's spilled and comes into contact with the air, it can start vaporizing. The vapors are flammable, but they would need an ignition source. So at this point, it looks like there wouldn't be one of those, and it's not spilling anyways. That's the real takeaway at this point. Did we learn anything in this news conference about any new danger? No. Nobody is hurt. There is no spill. They did say if you live within a half mile of 1090 Stafford Road, that's sort of the epicenter on terms of streets of where this happened, they do want you to sort of stay inside and keep your windows closed. Now, you were probably doing that anyways. It's about 10 degrees outside. But they were just saying that because if there was a spill, which there isn't at this point, you wouldn't be able to detect it because propane, they have to add that rotten egg smell, that sort of methane smell into it, because otherwise it's an odorless gas. You would never know if it was around you.
Yes, but in the meantime, they do have air monitoring happening right now. And again, they say no flammables have been detected. We do have an update about the exact amount of cars and how they were impacted in this. So we do know there were around 14 cars impacted, but 6 of those were carrying the liquefied propane gas, and 4 of the cars are in the water. Now, one of the leaders out there with DEEP did say this area, they were looking at the Willimantic River as well as Eagle Lake. So it appears to be 2 bodies of water that they are paying attention to this morning. And CTDOT, they will be assessing whether speed or potential icy weather played a factor factor in the conditions on the
Yes.
railroad itself.
Now, what you're looking at now is, and by the way, they said Eagle Lake. If you look at it on Google Maps, it's more commonly known as Eagleville Pond.
Okay.
Not sure what the locals up there say, just in case you want to sort of get oriented. This is a look from across Eagleville Pond on Pine Lake Drive in Coventry. That's where Fox 61 Celine Arif has sort of set up shop, and we'd like to get to her once we get a second. We're going to get her ready to come through. But yeah, all right, she's ready to go. So let's get out to Fox 61 Celine Arif. Celine, what does it look like where you are? Because we've just had limited vantage points from where we're sitting here in the studio.
Yeah, hi there, Tim. So we're here on Pine Lake Road, and that's a great question because when we got out here, we noticed everything out here is white. But if you look at the Eagleville Pond behind me, you can see something orange. It's a little bit hard to see. You'll have to excuse all the beautiful trees out here. But if you look past the trees, you see a big splotch of something orange, and that is a train that we are seeing out here. It's obviously not moving. It is standing still right there, and it looks to be one of the trains that was impacted out here. Now we can see it over this pond because we are in a neighborhood that is, I believe the back of the neighborhood is facing where that accident looks like happened, but it is a very quiet scene out here. It's just in the middle of a neighborhood where you can see one of the major accidents that have happened already this year. So we're going to keep our eye on the scene out here, see if we see any crews come out here or anything like that. We can still see some of it through the woods. It's not the greatest vantage point, but we are going to do our best to keep showing you more shots out here from Coventry. Reporting live in Coventry, back to you, Celine Arif, Fox 61.
And Celine, thank you. And really, that shot also showed that the biggest danger, and it's not just us saying this, there's a lot of people in the press conference, is not from the spill at this point. It's that these crews are working in the extreme cold. And the footing is a little off there. They said they even had to have the farmer who lives in the farmland around there sort of plow a road for them to get there. And they're going to need to maintain that. They're going to need to bring crews down and cranes down. But then it's right close to the water, too.
Yeah.
So they had said one slip, somebody goes into freezing water, you've got a real problem. Let's see if we can zoom it in a little bit, right? You can see that's where the closure is. Look down in the bottom center of your screen, that body of water right there. That is right where the trains were. And while we're here, once again, if you're looking for ways to get around the Stores campus, UConn Stores campus, right up there in the yellow, you can start to see the traffic building up because Route 195 is still going to be your main way to get to the Stores campus, get to the Depot campus. You can see those blue arrows. Those will get you around because Route 32 between Route 44 and South Eagleville Road there, that is going to be closed at least for the rest of the day and might be a couple of days. But you have plenty of other ways to get around.
Yeah, and folks, they say that this cleanup will take several days as there is a lot to assess out there, including the integrity of the cars and the materials that they're working with. So it's not just the propane gas that they're looking at.
Food grade grease, they said.
Food grade grease. What else did we have here? Grain. So just a lot of different messes that they're trying to look at and make sure that there is no contamination. So again, that they have not confirmed rather that there is contamination in the bodies of water, but they did, the DEP representative did say that they were going to put some
he used a term that, to be honest, I haven't heard before. Something like that.
Yeah, bloom in the water rather to
contain any potential spill.
Anything that would be out there, it would catch it.
Yes, because there is a river that sort of connects with that pond there. So yeah, it could eventually, if it was not contained, start going downstream a little bit, and that's of course something we don't want. Now, if we have Fox 61's Joe Monty, we'd like to go check in again with him. He is just getting himself ready. He's sort of stationed down probably about as close to the accident site as we can get without getting any closer. He's right at the intersection of South Eagleville Road and Route 32. That's on the south end of that closure. So we'll be checking in with him in just a few seconds. But once again, if you're joining us, we got relatively good news on a noon press conference. 14 cars derailed from a train right alongside Route 32 in Mansfield. Of those 14 cars, 6 of them were carrying liquefied propane gas, and 4 of those cars that derailed completely went into a nearby body of water. It looks like Eagleville Pond. But the most important things here, A, nobody is hurt that we have heard of yet. And B, even more importantly, there is no evidence whatsoever that any hazardous material has spilled, either into the lake or otherwise. And that is a very key distinction at this point. That being said, the big words we were hearing over and over and over was abundance of caution. They are still taking this very seriously. So for now, anybody within a half mile of that site, if you live there, don't worry, but you're being told just stay in your houses and keep the windows shut, which you were probably doing anyways, just in case anything happens at this point. But you had even heard they were asked, there's a couple daycares in the area. They're not evacuating anybody. Those kiddos are nice and safe inside, playing, doing what they need to do, and knock on wood, it will stay that way.
Yes, yes. All right, we're going to check in with Fox 61's Alicia Hercules. She joins us now. Alicia, where are you and what is the scene looking like?
Yeah, Symphony, we are here on Pine Lake Road. I did speak with a couple neighbors in this area, and they did say that this was a huge shock. They've never seen anything like this. They did say that they didn't hear anything, but some of them were out this morning and just kind of saw commotion, you know, cop cars and ambulances. I'm going to step out of frame over here, actually, so I can kind of show you a little bit. If you look closely through this kind of brush, you could see a bit of like an orange train car. So that's all we can see here in this neighborhood. A lot of people have been walking around just taking a look. It's not the best vantage point, but people are able to still see what's going on, and they're just very shocked. This one woman I spoke with who's lived in this area for about 15 years, she said nothing much like this has ever happened before. They see the train go by often and didn't really think anything of it. They're definitely shocked, but she did say she's very, very thankful that there is no active danger right now. She says she's walking around actually right now, wants to still take her morning walk, but definitely said that she's thankful that no one was injured and that their neighborhood is safe. Again, a lot of these neighbors are saying that they're surprised to see what's kind of going on here, but again, they are thankful that they are safe. We will continue giving you updates on this train derailment as those updates become available. But for now, live, Alicia Hercules, Fox 61.
Okay, so because we know there is no leak, and because we know at this point that there's nobody hurt, again, it looks like one of the big impacts at this point is going to be traffic. So that's what we want to help you sort of get around, because these road closures could last for a while. In the purple, that's the road closure. It's Route 32. We're just sort of giving you this overview so you can see where Stores in Mansfield is. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can see this body of water right down here. This is right where it happened. The train runs parallel to Route 32 right about there. Now, as for, oh, and by the way, once again, for reference, this is Yukon right up here, not too far away. It does not look like it's within that half-mile radius where they're telling people to shelter in place. But a lot of people who are coming up to Yukon often use this road. It's a back road. So we want to show you other ways to get around. First of all, the most commonly used way, I would say, for people to get to the Stores campus is to come up I-84 eastbound and then take Route 195, which is up here. That's not going to be a problem. That's the main way people come in, and you see it's starting to get a little more congested over here in the yellow and in the orange. But again, a lot of people do come up to the back roads. A lot of them will often take a left turn coming down Route 32 and head up that way on Route 44. It looks like you can still do that. But South Eagleville Road, that's this road right here, you can also take a right to get to where you need to go. So pretty much the people who are going to be the most inconvenienced are the ones who sort of take these side roads to get in. A lot of them, Separatist Road, Bone Mill Roads up here. Not very heavily populated, but sometimes people like to take those back roads to get to the Hilltop Apartments, to get to campus. It's not going to be the biggest deal for you to get around. You should just be able to either take a left onto Route 44 or take that right there on the South Eagleville Road. That's right down there, and you should be able to get to the Stores campus okay. The Stores campus is open. The Depot campus, which is right next to it, right up here, that is still open. Yukon really wanted to stress that. There is no danger to the students there, and there should be plenty of ways for you to get to the campus if you need to. Let's get you right over to Symphony. She's got more.
Yes, we're going to check back in with Fox 61's Joe Monty. Joe is still posted up near Eaglesville Road. What have you learned, Joe?
Hey, look, we are still here on Stafford Road in Mansfield, and the road is still blocked off behind me. I'm actually going to step off to the side and show you what the scene looks like right now. Again, we don't have a fantastic vantage point of the crash, but we do see that the road is still blocked off, and we do have crews out there working right now to try to get you the best view of this scene possible. But we just had a press conference with several town officials, including the fire chief, people from DEEP, and a number of other organizations, and they get a little bit of a feel as to what things are like on the scene and some more details regarding the crash. It was a freight train. There were no passengers, and it was 14 cars that came off the track, 6 of which are on their sides, and they were filled with this LNG gas. There were also general goods on the train, food-grade grease as well. But it was liquid gas cars that rolled over. There were no breaches in the cars identified, so no holes, no leaks that these teams know of at the moment. But they do have hazmat teams on scene from Yukon and from the town of Mansfield as well. Again, no flammable liquid leaks detected. There is still a stay-in-place order between Route 275 and 34. People that live within a half mile of the area are being asked to stay inside. And it's cold out, so you're not going to have your windows open anyway, but they are asking people to keep their windows closed because the gas that was on these cars was odorless. It had not had the odor sort of scent added to it so that you could smell the leaks yet. So if there was a leak, you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't be able to smell it. So that's why they're asking people to keep their windows closed and stay inside for the time being. But again, hazmat teams on scene, no leaks found as of yet. They do say that the situation is under control and they don't see a reason for any evacuations at the moment or in the future, but they will keep us updated on that. The town manager did say that they'll be issuing a local emergency order later today just to make sure that there are the proper resources allocated to the people that live in the area that have been affected by this, as well as crews on scene. DEEP says that they're working their hardest to get some of the rail cars back on track. 4 of them are in or partially in the water, so they have a little bit of a job on their hands. They said the conditions down there are rough. They're working in snow, they're working in water. It's really cold, so the crews are doing their best right now to get this scene cleaned up. But they said it's going to be a couple days worth of cleanup, and they're hoping that they have the road back open by tonight, but no guarantees there. There was a conductor and an engineer on the train. They're not injured. They're okay. They helped contain the situation actually when it happened, and they're actually who alerted the authorities after the crash. So some interesting information coming out of this press conference, and we're standing right now. The press conference was about 3/4 of a mile from the scene, and this accident happened in a low area. So they said if there were leaks, it's a good thing that it happened down there because the gas is heavier, so it stays low, so it would help contain actually the mess. But again, hazmat crews on scene say they've found no leaks so far. There's going to be another press conference at 4 o'clock with some town officials, so we're going to bring you that information as well. But for now in Mansfield, Joe Monty, Fox 61.
All right, thanks, Joe. We have a quick recap of 3 things you need to know right now. First up, if you live within a half-mile radius of that area, you should shelter in place. So that's Stafford Road near Route 275 and Route 44. Now, the town says no evacuations are recommended at this time, but we heard from Adam Libros earlier. He is the town's emergency management director, and he says if that changes, they will send a notice through the emergency notification system. So residents should be on the lookout for that. Okay, number 2, good news here. No one was injured. Joe just told us more about those 2 workers who reported the incident, and they were able to initially try to contain a little bit of what they could do at the time. And third, DEEP broke down additional details about those train cars impacted. They say there were a total of 14 impacted. 6 were carrying the liquefied propane gas, and 4 ended up in the water.
Okay, so that's where we're at this point. We are certainly going to have a lot more for you on the Fox 61 News at 5 and 6, and going on through streaming on Fox 61 Plus at 7 o'clock. So stay with us, and we will be covering that press conference live. And remember, we are also going to be covering in Manchester High School, where school has been released for the day after a student was found with a gun. There is going to be a town hall at 5 p.m. We will have coverage on that for you as well.
And you can stay up to date on the go on fox61.com, as well as our Fox 61 News app. Have a great day.